The giant warships of the Vareshi Empire floated above the training planet. Their silver hulls shined under the red sun. Inside the royal ship, the 19-year-old alien princess stood tall with her arms crossed. Her name was not easy to speak in human language, but most called her Princess Leia. She wore a crown made of living metal and a cape that shimmered like stars. She had trained in war since childhood. She won her first duel at age 10. She was fast, smart, and proud.
How she stood
On the deck, looking at the humans below, she had heard they were allies, but weak ones. Soft, emotional, and slow to adapt. "These are the soldiers Earth sends?" she asked with a smirk, pointing at the human troops landing on the field. "They look like miners, not warriors." Beside her stood her royal guard commander, a tall, four-armed Vareshi general. He stayed quiet, though a small grin formed on his face. The humans stepped out of their transport ship. Their armor was scratched and dirty. Most of them looked relaxed, not sharp or formal. But one soldier caught the princess's eye. He was taller than the others, with short dark hair and a strong build. He wore no rank on his chest, and his helmet was under his arm. "Who is that one?" Leia asked. A nearby translator replied, "Unknown, Your Highness. We were not given individual records." Leia watched as the soldier walked across the field without hurrying. He didn't salute. He didn't look up at the ships above, just walked like it didn't matter who watched him. The princess felt annoyed. He had no fear, no respect. Turned on her voice speaker, so her words echoed across the field. "Human soldier," she said, loud and clear. "Did no one teach you how to walk in the presence of royalty?" The other human soldiers turned, surprised. The one she spoke to stopped walking. He looked up slowly, eyes meeting hers across the distance. Then, without saying a word, he looked away and kept walking. The princess's eyes narrowed. "Do you not hear me?" she added. "Or do humans not understand simple honor?" The soldier didn't stop this time. He just dropped his helmet onto a bench and sat down, calm and quiet. Leia clenched her jaw. Some of the Vareshi officers around her chuckled softly. The princess turned to them. "He is afraid," she said, brushing it off. "They all are." But deep inside, she didn't believe her own words. Later, during the meal hour, Leia visited the joint dining hall with her guards. She wanted to see the humans closer. The hall was filled with both Vareshi and human troops. Some shared food and stories. Some kept to their own sides. She scanned the crowd and found him again. The same soldier sat at the edge of a table, eating alone. No one talked to him. Even his own team kept their distance. Leia walked over. "You," she said sharply. "Why did you ignore my command today?" He looked up at her, chewing slowly. Then he placed his spoon down and wiped his mouth with a napkin. "Because I'm not here to impress you," he said. His voice was calm, flat. No anger. No challenge. "Just plain words?" Leia blinked. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. "Do you know who I am?" she asked. "Double quotes, yes," he said. "And yet you disrespect me?" He stood up slowly, towering slightly above her. "I didn't disrespect you," he said. "I just don't bow to titles." He reached down, unclipped his chest plate, and placed it on the table. Then he unstrapped his shoulder guards and set them down too. Slowly, without anger, he removed each piece of armor until he stood in just his dark undersuit. Then he turned around and walked out of the hall. The entire place went. Silent Leia stood there, stunned. No one knew what to say. Even her guards looked unsure. She felt something strange inside her chest. It wasn't rage. It wasn't shame. It was curiosity. Who was this human? That night, back on her ship, she asked for a report. Find out everything. "About that soldier," she ordered. The computer showed only a name. Private Dean Harker. No special rank. No medals. No family listed. His file was almost empty. "How can someone with no history act like that?" she whispered. She walked to the window and stared down at the planet. "He dropped his armor like it was nothing," she said to herself. Like he had already fought battles that made this training meaningless. The next morning, she returned to the observation deck, But this time she said nothing when the humans arrived. She watched him closely. He trained hard, quietly. Helped one soldier who fell. He repaired a damaged drone with just basic tools. He moved like someone who had done this 1,000 times before. The princess didn't mock him again. Not because she feared him, but because for the first time. She respected him, and that respect began with one silent walk away. The royal ship floated high in orbit, but the princess's thoughts stayed far below on the training ground. Princess Leia sat in her chamber, surrounded by soft lights and silent guards, staring at the screen. The face of Private Dean Harker filled it. No rank, no medals, no official records of bravery. Still, something felt off. Why would a normal soldier ignore a royal? Why would a man like that remove his armor and walk away in silence, like he didn't care who watched? She turned to her assistant. "Are you sure this is all we have on him?" The assistant nodded. "Yes, Your Highness. It's just one assignment." "File. He arrived 3 weeks ago from a border unit. His commander called him quiet but reliable. Nothing more." Leia leaned back, arms crossed. "Then why does he feel dangerous?" Meanwhile, on the surface, Dean Harker continued with his duties like nothing strange had happened. He trained during the day, ran drills, and fixed equipment that others forgot. He said little, but his actions spoke louder than words. When a machine broke, he repaired it. When a young soldier panicked during a climbing test, Dean climbed back, down and helped him step by step, without a word. The others started watching him more closely now. He never bragged, never showed off, but every movement was calm and practiced, like someone who had seen too much. One afternoon, Leia joined the observation dome with a group of visiting nobles and Vireshi officers. Today's training included a battle simulation with fire drones and smoke traps. Soldiers had to move as a team, avoid traps, and disable the enemy bots. Now the humans and Vireshi had separate teams. Leia's eyes searched for Dean. She found him again, standing in line, checking the battery on his rifle. No flash, no shine, just quiet focus. A noble beside her laughed. "Is that the one you said disrespected you? He looks like a worker, not a soldier." Leia didn't answer. Her eyes stayed locked on the screen. As the simulation began, teams rushed into the artificial canyon. Vireshi soldiers moved in pairs using tall shields. The humans moved slower at first, scanning the area carefully. Dean was at the rear of his group, watching their path and covering them without being told. Suddenly, a drone fired from a hidden point, dropping smoke over the field. The Vireshi team panicked and scattered. 2 tripped into a net trap and were declared out. The humans stayed close. Dean motioned for them to stop, then tossed a small sensor that revealed another trap just ahead. The princess leaned forward. Dean crawled under the beam of the trap and carefully disarmed it using a thin wire. His team passed safely. Then he activated a short pulse and disabled 2 enemy drones in one burst by the end of the test. The Vireshi had lost 6 out of 10 members. The humans lost only 1. Dean never spoke, never gave orders, but somehow the team followed his lead. When the simulation ended, Leia stood still, her expression unreadable. Later that evening, Leia requested something unusual. She wanted to meet Dean privately, without her guards or advisors. Her assistant hesitated but obeyed. Dean was called to the royal hall, came in without his full armor, and only a simple shirt, dark pants, and clean boots. Leia stood in the center of the large room, hands behind her back. "You were not ordered to meet me," she said as he entered. "I know," Dean said. "Yet you came? You asked?" She tilted her head. He didn't answer. At once, he looked at the tall banners on the walls and the lights above. Then he met her eyes. "I used to try to prove myself," he said, "but that only led to being used." Leia frowned. Used. Sent into battles others avoided. Made to clean up their failures. When I stopped talking, they stopped noticing me, but I still finished the job. The room was quiet for a moment, and when I mocked you, she asked. He looked at her with calm eyes. "I've heard worse, from my own side. From enemies." "Your words don't bother me." She stepped closer. "Do you think I'm a fool?" No, he said. I think you're proud and curious. Her face softened just a bit. You fight well, she said, but you hide it. I don't need to be seen, he replied. Not unless it matters. And when does it matter? He looked around again. You'll know when it does. She nodded slowly. There's an honor duel tomorrow. It's a mixed team test. I want you to fight beside me. He shook his head. I don't do ceremonies. This isn't a ceremony. It's real combat training. Still, he didn't answer. After a moment, he bowed his head slightly. It's not in disrespect, but not in submission either. If it's needed, I'll be there, he said, and walked away again. This time Leia didn't stop him. She just watched. It's the same way he had walked away before, but now it felt different. The morning of the duel training arrived, and the field buzzed with energy. Soldiers from both the Varishi Empire and Earth stood in formation. Tall banners waved in the wind, and flags from both worlds lined the edge of the practice arena. It was not a real battlefield, but the challenge ahead would be very real. This wasn't just for honor. It was to test how two very different forces, alien and human, could fight side by side. Princess Leia stood in her polished armor, glowing blue lines running along her arms and chest. She looked strong and proud as always. But inside, she was waiting to see one thing. Would he show up? Her team, a mix of Varishi elites and hand-picked humans, waited near the gates. Leia scanned the group quietly, her face unreadable. Then she saw him. Dean Harker walked in at his own pace, wearing light armor and carrying a small rifle slung over his back. No one greeted him. He didn't need it. He stepped beside the group, gave a single nod to Leia, then checked his equipment. Leia didn't speak to him directly. She just gave orders to the team and pointed at the training map. We go through Section 9 first, she said. There will be traps, drones, and possibly mock snipers. Once we reach the center tower, we hold it. The team nodded but one. Varishi soldier leaned toward his partner and whispered, This human better not slow us down. Dean heard it but didn't respond. The gates opened. The duel simulation began. Inside the zone, the team spread out. Fake fog covered parts of the ground, and mechanical drones buzzed overhead. Leia moved like lightning, her twin blades slicing through two drones that flew too close. Behind her, Dean stayed near the back of the group, watching every corner. Team advanced quickly. They reached a narrow canyon path with cliffs above. Leia was about to signal a push forward when Dean raised his hand. Wait, he said quietly. She turned to him. What is it? He pointed up. Motion. Seconds. Later, a group of hidden drones dropped from above, shooting stun pulses. Because of Dean's warning, the group dove behind cover just in time. Only one Varishi was hit and taken out of the test. Good eye, Leia muttered. They kept moving. Dean found two hidden tripwires, saving the group from being disqualified. Each time, he said little, just acted fast, smooth. Sure, they reached the center tower, a tall structure made of old steel and rock. It had to be held for 10 minutes to win the simulation. But another team was already there, the second Varishi group, who wanted the same prize. The two teams clashed, energy blasts lit up the air. Mock explosions shook the walls. Leia led the charge, fighting with speed and strength. Her blades clashed against a Varishi elite staff. She didn't back down. Behind her, the team fought hard, but some were getting pinned. Dean, still near the rear, moved to the side without being told. He climbed up a broken wall and took position with a long-range rifle. From above, he provided cover fire. Shooting drones and tagging enemy soldiers one by one, the tide began to turn, Leia noticed. Who gave him permission to move? One Varishi soldier shouted. No one, Leia said calmly. He doesn't need it. They held the tower. When the timer ended, a loud horn sounded. The simulation was over. Leia's team had won. Everyone lowered their weapons. Sweat dripped from faces, and laughter echoed. But Dean didn't join them, simply climbed down, walked to a corner, and removed his rifle's battery. Leia walked over to him, her armor glowing dimly now. "You helped us win," she said. He nodded. "So, did you?" She looked at him. "You didn't follow the plan exactly." "Plans change," she said. "I was watching the angles. We were being flanked." She tilted her head. "So you left your post?" He met her gaze. "I acted. That's what soldiers do." For a moment she stared at him, and she smiled slightly. "You remind me of my older brother," she said. "It used to question orders too." "What happened to him?" Dean asked. "He died," she said simply, saving people who didn't listen to him in time. They stood in silence for a moment. "I listen," Dean said quietly. She nodded. Noticed. Word of the duel spread fast. Soldiers from both sides talked about it all evening. They said the princess fought like a storm. They said the human who didn't speak much had saved the match. That night, Leia stood on her ship, looking out the window. Stars filled the sky, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She had mocked him once. Now she understood something important. He didn't speak loudly. He didn't follow every order, but he understood war. He understood people, and more than anything, he knew when to act and when to walk away. After the training duel, the base felt different. Human and Varishi soldiers began speaking more, sharing stories and even laughing together. The victory had brought some respect between the two sides. But more than that, it had started a quiet talk that spread through every hallway, mess room. They didn't speak about the win itself. They spoke about the silent human soldier, Private Dean Harker, the one who never saluted loudly, the one who didn't wear full armor, the one who walked away from the alien princess and now stood beside her like an equal. Princess Leia sat alone in her chamber, her fingers moving slowly over a holographic screen. Files, reports, and simulation videos floated in the air. She replayed the training duel again and again. Every time her eyes followed Dean, she paused on a frame where he looked up just before a drone ambush, giving the warning that saved their team. She zoomed in on his eyes, calm, focused, not surprised. As if he had already seen that kind of danger many times before, he sees everything. She whispered to herself. Suddenly, her chamber door opened. Her advisor, Captain Yelvar, stepped in. "Your Highness," he said, "you have received a formal request." "From whom?" "The High Council. They want you to select a soldier from the joint forces to join the Outer Ring campaign." She leaned back. A political move. "Yes," he agreed. "They want to show unity between humans and Varishi." She thought for a moment. "Send them the name," she said. "Private Dean Harker." Yelver blinked. "The human, yes, but he's not even an officer. He doesn't need to be." Captain Yelvar hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I am," she said. "He may not speak much, but when he acts, he shifts the field." Meanwhile, Dean sat outside the supply bay, working on a damaged sensor drone. Most soldiers ignored him as they passed, but one young human stepped forward and offered help. Dean handed him a tool without a word. Soon, footsteps approached. A Varishi messenger stood nearby. "Private Dean Harker," the messenger said, "you've been summoned by the princess." Dean didn't even look surprised. He wiped his hands, stood up, and followed. Inside the command hall, Leia stood beside a long screen displaying space maps and enemy positions. She turned as Dean entered. "You've been selected," she said. "They want someone to join the Outer Ring mission as a symbol of peace. I gave them your name." Dean glanced at the map. "Is it really a peace mission?" She shook her head. "No, it's a warning. We're going to a sector where pirates have taken control. We need to show presence." He crossed his arms. "You want me as your shield?" "No," she said. "I want you as my partner." Dean looked at her for a moment. "Right? Why me?" "Because you don't lie," she answered. "You don't pretend to be more than you are. And when others freeze, you move," thought quietly. "When do we leave?" "By sunrise." She replied, "Pack light." The next morning, they boarded a small tactical ship with a joint crew. Varishi officers handled the engines while human techs checked the weapons. Leia wore light armor and carried 2 energy blades. Dean wore a plain jacket with only a sidearm. The journey took only 4 hours. Yes. As they reached the outer ring sector, sensors picked up signs of a damaged civilian ship drifting near an asteroid. Pirate trick, Dean said at once. They pretend to be wounded, then ambush anyone who tries to help. I've seen the same, Leia said. But we respond. Anyway, it's our duty. The ship stopped near the broken vessel. Leia and Dean stepped onto a small scout pod and flew closer. Their eyes stayed on every shadow, every signal. As they neared the civilian ship, Leia spotted a flicker in the dust cloud. Right side movement, she said. 6 targets, Dean added, already pulling his sidearm. 2 above, 2 below. To waiting behind the wreck, a trap. In seconds, pirate ships uncloaked and opened fire. Energy blasts shook the pod. Leia activated the shields while Dean launched counterflares. They flew fast, dodging attacks, until the pod landed hard on a nearby rock platform. Both Leia and Dean jumped out, taking cover behind metal crates. You were right, she shouted. Happens often, he replied. The pirates landed fast, trying to surround them. Leia spun forward, her twin blades slicing 2 attackers down in seconds. Dean moved quietly to the left, taking clean shots from behind cover. He never missed. His movements were smooth, silent, and exact. More pirates arrived. 5, then 10. Dean signaled Leia. We're getting pinned. She nodded. We moved together. You cut left, I'll take the right. They dashed out. Leia used her blade like lightning, striking quickly and dodging every attack. Dean used dropped weapons from fallen enemies, switching from sidearm to rifle without hesitation. Soon, the last pirate dropped. The area fell silent again. Dean and Leia stood back to back, breathing hard but still calm. That's what peace missions look like now, Dean asked. She gave a half smile, not surprised, not really. They returned to their ship with the pirate data logs. The High Council would praise the mission. They would speak of unity and success. But Leia knew the truth. They only survived because of one quiet human who didn't wear rank and didn't speak much. But when he moved, everything changed. Dark clouds moved slowly over the mining moon of Cora 7. The sky was gray. Strong winds passed across the metal structures and old tunnels. Now this place was once full of life, but now only silence remained. It had been abandoned after too many pirate raids. The joint mission between Earth and the Vareshi Empire was supposed to scan the area and set up new security systems. A small team was sent, and among them were Princess Leia and Private Dean Harker. They stood at the edge of a broken landing platform, watching the fog rise from the surface. We shouldn't be here this long, Dean said. Too quiet. The scanners are still working, Leia replied. But yes, I agree. Something feels wrong. Dean walked ahead, checking every corner with calm steps. His hand stayed close to his sidearm. Leia followed, her blades sheathed but ready. Behind them, 2 human techs and 2 Vareshi scouts worked. To activate an old communication tower? How many battles have you seen? Leia asked suddenly. Dean didn't turn to her. He just answered softly. Enough. She walked beside him. Why do you always move alone? Because when things go bad, he said, people run in different directions. I move where I'm needed. But you don't ask for help. Not unless someone proves they won't. Freeze. She paused for a second. And have I proven that? Dean looked at her. Yes. Just then, a loud alarm buzzed from the tower behind them. One of the human techs shouted, Movement. 5 heat signatures coming from the tunnels. Everyone took cover. Leia drew her blades. Dean dropped to one knee, rifle in hand, scanning the area. From the tunnels, figures appeared, pirates in old armor, their faces covered with dust masks. They opened fire, forcing the team to split up. The 2 Vareshi scouts tried to fall back but were caught in a crossfire. One was hit and collapsed. Cover the tower. Leia shouted. Dean nodded and moved toward the side path, circling behind the pirates. He moved like a shadow, fast and quiet. Leia stayed up front, drawing fire and keeping the enemy focused on her. When one pirate got too close, she kicked him. back and struck with both blades. Another tried to sneak behind her, but a sharp blast from Dean's rifle stopped him. Suddenly, more pirates dropped from the cliffs above. "They were waiting for us," Leia said through her. "Come they want." "To trap us here," Dean replied. "Then we break the trap." He threw a flash device that lit up the sky for a second, blinding the pirates. Leia dashed forward with speed, knocking 2 of them off their feet. Dean picked off the rest, one by one. Within minutes, the fight was over. The area was quiet again. But the team was shaken. One Vareshi scout was wounded badly. The human techs were breathing hard, nerves shaking. Dean walked back to the group and helped the wounded scout sit against the wall. Didn't speak much, just worked quickly, wrapping the injury and applying pressure. "Where did you learn?" "That," Leia asked. "Too many times with no medic around," he replied, as they waited for evac support. Leia sat beside Dean on a metal crate. "You always look calm," she said. "Even when it gets bad." "Not calm," he answered. "Just used to it? Do you ever get tired?" He nodded. "Yes. But stopping doesn't change the danger." She looked at him for a long moment. "I mocked you once," she said. "I remember." "You didn't respond. Didn't need to. Why not?" He looked out at the dusty sky. "Because real strength doesn't need to shout." Leia stayed quiet. She thought about her own training, her past victories, and her pride. Then she looked at him again, this human who didn't shine, didn't boast, but somehow had changed the way she saw the world. "You've seen more than most soldiers I know," she said. "It's not something I count, but others count." "On you now," he turned to her. "Are you one of them?" She smiled softly. "Yes." Soon the evac ship arrived and the wounded were taken aboard. Leia and Dean stayed behind for a few more minutes, finishing the scan before they left. Leia picked up a small stone from the ground, a moon crystal. "A gift," she said, handing it to Dean. He looked at it, surprised. "Why?" "Because I've never met someone who taught me something without saying much," she replied. He placed the crystal in his pocket without another word. Back on the ship, the crew didn't cheer or celebrate, but they looked at Dean with quiet respect. No one needed to say anything. The silent human had earned their trust, and the alien princess, once proud and sharp with her words, now listened more closely than ever before. The great hall of the Vareshi royal ship was filled with light and music. Soldiers, nobles, and crew gathered to celebrate the success of the joint missions. Tables were heavy with food from both Earth and Vareshi kitchens. Flags hung from the ceiling, symbols of 2 worlds united by hope and struggle. Princess Leia stood at the front of the hall, her armor polished and shining, but softer than before. Beside her were honored guests and important commanders. She cleared her throat, and the room fell silent. "Today," she said, "we honor the courage and skill of every soldier who fought beside us. Each has shown strength, loyalty, and heart." The crowd clapped, but everyone's eyes searched for one figure, Private Dean Harker, the silent human who had changed many minds. At the edge of the hall, Dean stood with simple clothes, no armor, just his jacket and boots. He looked around quietly, not seeking attention. Then Leia stepped down from the stage and walked toward him. "Dean," she said, holding out a small box. He took it surprised. "This medal is for you," she said. "For bravery, for loyalty, and for teaching me that strength is not always loud." The room grew quieter. All eyes watched. Dean looked at the medalla, shining symbol of honor with a simple star in the middle. He did not speak. Instead, he nodded and stepped forward. Then, for the first time, he gave the princess a salute. It was not forced or fake. It was real. Salute from one warrior to another. Lines softened. She lowered her own head, not in shame, but in respect. The crowd erupted in applause. After the ceremony, many came to congratulate Dean. Some asked about his past, others about his plans. Dean listened and smiled quietly. Later, he found Leia near the observation window. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "Then why are you here?" "Because some things don't need words." She looked out at the stars. "What will you do now?" "Keep walking," he said, "wherever I'm needed next." "Will you remember this?" He turned and looked at her. I don't forget those. Who taught me? She smiled. Then maybe one day you will teach me too. Dean nodded. The alliance between humans and Vareshi was stronger now. Not because of medals or speeches, but because two very different people had found respect in silence and action. As the stars outside blinked quietly, Princess Leia and Private Dean Harker stood side by side, ready for whatever the future would bring.